I'm on fire.
What's going on, guys? It's the 5 Year Pass podcast with me, Suddy, and this is Shyam, and we'll be previewing the 28th of December game. Game's coming thick and fast. Don't forget to have a look at our review video from the weekend. But yeah, just game's coming thick and fast, Shyam. It's great stuff.
It's literally 24 hours between one set of fixtures and the others. So the Boxing Day is now this match day 16. Yeah.
I just wanted to recap the league. So currently, I mean, no surprise with the way they've been playing, except for the last game, Liverpool on top of the ladder, 32 points. But I mean, from second to to ninth.
Sorry, I should have asked before the video, but can you pull up the screen on the ladder?
I can. Just give me a second.
There's an absolute logjam, isn't there? There's between second and ninth is about 3 points, or 4 points.
Yeah.
Wolves, funnily enough, have fallen off a bit. They've just dropped too many points recently. You'd expect Wolves to be higher than they are.
Yeah. Actually, looking at this, I personally think West Ham's in a great position. I didn't think they'd do this well. Moyes has done a good job. They've done themselves some favors by beating Villa, for example, a few weeks ago, and so they go to the smaller teams and hopefully get some points there. But look, I mean, just look. I mean, said it already, but it's jam packed from Everton all the way to Southampton. 4 points in between. Southampton play Liverpool. Play Liverpool next week. City's playing Everton tonight. Chelsea's playing Villa, so they jam packed there. United's playing Wolves. United could just drop off all of a sudden if they don't get the result tonight.
Oh yeah.
And Liverpool plays
Newcastle.
Do you remember who? Actually, I can just click it there.
Newcastle.
Yeah. So I mean, just it's crazy. And then Tottenham could finally kind of break the funk they were in and climb a few places as well, playing Fulham. But I mean, Fulham as well, they've got a bit of mojo back about themselves, and anything could happen. So hard to predict it. We just gotta go with the flow. So we'll start with the Chelsea Villa game, I guess. 1 second, let me get back to the screen. Yeah, start with the Chelsea Villa game. They're a bit of a funk. Villa is not in a funk. In fact, if Villa win their game in hand, they're 2 games in hand, I believe.
Yeah. The games are City and Newcastle. So, yeah, be interesting.
They go top of the ladder. They win 2 games in hand.
Really?
Yeah, they go 31 points. They're 25 of them.
Oh, they'll be second then. Yeah.
Sorry, what did I say?
Top.
Oh, no, sorry. They go 1 point off top. That's what I meant to say. They're playing great football. Both teams have a lot to play for. Do you think Villa can pip into Champions League football this season, or do you think they burn off?
I think I remember seeing the Wolves game, which was a big game for Villa. It's a local derby, and they outplayed that game, but they found a way to win at the end. There's a resilience to this Villa team, a bit like West Ham you were talking about before. That they seem to find a way of getting results, which is the mark of a good team. And Grealish is on absolute fire. They have, the whoscored.com. Guess who the top 3 players in the Liga? Bruno's third, Harry Kane's second, and Grealish is first. He's the only player with a who scored above 8.
I actually saw that,
yeah. So he's having a phenomenal season. I knew he was having a good season. I didn't realize it was that good. And his scores go up away from home. So his home who scored average is below 8, and his away is above 8, and so his overall scores around 8. So he's having a massive impact. And they'll be full of confidence that Villa on the day can beat absolutely anyone. And it was a fortunate result against Liverpool, but they are the only team to beat Liverpool. So they'll fancy their chances to get a result against anybody, and they've got a lot of confidence at the moment to get a result. Whereas Chelsea, for all of their really, really good players and their great squad depth, they just seem to be lacking confidence at the moment.
Speaking of Grealish, it's interesting. United were going for him and Sancho. Both would have been great buys because when they play together in England, there's a certain nastiness about the way when I say nastiness, I mean like
a Bruno Fernandes nastiness.
No, I mean when they connect, it's like you just know something's going to happen, and you just don't want to be on that side of against them. Sancho hasn't played well since he hasn't scored a goal all year. I don't think he's got an assist either.
Yeah. Do you
maybe
think
the other way around, maybe he's got a goal, hasn't got an assist.
The story's got to him, or you just think that he didn't have a break and it's just one of those things?
I think some people just get a bit more affected. I think he's one of those guys who's been affected. Still an outstanding player. But what I was going to say was, I think United just looking now and going like, that sometimes we just have to put the money up and get the Grealishes and get the Sanchos. And I think Grealish is still up for a move to anywhere. And I think he will end up going to City. I just have a slight feeling about that.
You'd well and truly slap an £80 million price tag on him, wouldn't you? It sounded extravagant last season. You might even be going close to 100, frankly, with that on.
I was just going to say 80 pennies for this guy. English premium. He's fucking great. He's a great looking fella, and he plays great football.
He's marketable. It's a big thing nowadays.
Exactly. That's what I mean, man. He's hugely marketable, and his goals and assists aren't exactly astronomical numbers. It's kind of the David Silva kind of type of stats where you don't really see it. Like with him in the team, you can win any team that I'm just thinking like he could walk into any team in the world now. I'm trying to think what would you not have him at? Maybe Bayern because they got Leroy Sané. Yeah. But he walk into any team. Yeah.
The only other like for like would be Bruno. Really, you'd think he'd go onto a flank. He wouldn't play in Bruno's position, but you'd think he'd play with Bruno. Good footballers learn how to play with each other.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can see as well, Grealish would salivate at the prospect of. I don't think he minds being number 2 if he's playing. He just strikes me as that sort of guy. Yeah, Grealish. I don't think he minds being the number 2, the Scottie Pippen to Bruno, if he was to come to United.
He's quite a selfless fellow. You get the feeling that he's one of the lads of the club as well. Like you could see the way he celebrated that goal when they beat Wolves. Like he was just one of the lads, but he's also a captain and also quite worthy of respect amongst his playing group. Yeah.
Speaking of one of the lads, Chelsea, the wheels falling off a little bit. Defense is looking a bit shaky. Keeper doesn't look as heroic as he did 3 weeks ago. The pattern of behavior setting in, where we talked about this. I was quite critical of them last season of this. It seems to have cropped up again. Big game for them. What do you think?
Yeah, big game. Home game against the team that's immediately above them on the ladder. You'd think it's a must-win. I'm going to go with Villa. I think Villa will nick it 2-1. I think the winner.
I think I'm going with Chelsea. I think he's going to. I still think Chelsea have the best squad, not team, squad. I think they'll rotate a little bit. I think you're going to see some plays you don't see normally. Loftus-Cheek, excuse me, Hudson-Odoi, those kind of players. I think Jorginho might get dropped. Yeah, shut up. I know exactly what you're thinking. And I'm going for Chelsea. I'm going for Chelsea 2-0. And in fact, I would prefer Chelsea 1 as well, just because
it's an important point that Chelsea have that depth. Part of it, they've lost a few games. They should rotate. They've got a quick turnaround. They should rotate. Lampard was talking about how it's only 48-hour turnaround for Chelsea to come to this game. He was not particularly thrilled with that. So you'd think getting some fresh legs in would make a difference. Villa, I don't know if it's a 48-hour turnaround for them or not, but you're quite right in suggesting that the fresh legs might run over the team. They did. Oh, they played on the 26th. Yeah, so it's a 2-day turnaround. Yeah.
The only the issue I have with Lampard is I'm wondering what's going on with him and Kante. Because if you get a firing Kante, when I say firing, I mean you have a guy. If he's working on all 4 cylinders of his, you have again one of the premier dons of the Premier League. He's won 3 league titles. He drives a Mini Cooper, and he stopped Leo Messi at the World Cup. He does Prius. Excuse me, Prius.
Oh, I love him even more. I didn't think it would be possible for me to love him even more. He's potentially my favorite non-United EPL player. What team would he not play for in world football right now?
I don't know. I would. I mean, the prospect of I don't think he's not going to go to Liverpool. I'm saying, imagine him and a Henderson type player playing together. I mean, that's just a scary midfield. Yeah, that's a scary midfield. He complements everyone. I mean, he makes Pogba look world class. That just goes to show how good he is. Genuinely. Do you know there's a story? There's a story of Kante. So Willian and David Luiz own a restaurant together in London. Kante apparently comes in, eats as much as he wants with his friends, and just leaves and doesn't pay.
Oh, really?
He just smiles and leaves. That's very, apparently, like someone was asking them what's the worst thing about Kante because he's such a nice guy, the nicest guy in world football. Then they told the story, like, yeah, he comes to my restaurant with his friends and doesn't pay and he leaves.
They're both ex-Chelsea players, right? They're both at Arsenal now, but they must have been there when he was there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were both at Chelsea with Kante. That the story probably came out.
What a Kante, huh?
Yeah. What a cheap Kante. Anyway, all right, we'll move on there. But so you're going with the Villa win.
I'm going to go with Villa. I'm a bit less confident after you suggested Chelsea's depth might help, but I'll stick to my guns. I do think Villa got. I think it's going to be a bit of bottle needed to win it. I think Villa's got a bit more bottle right now.
All right, we turn to the Goodison Park game. A resurgent Everton playing against a very much resurgent City. I say resurgent. I mean, their defense is looking as good as it ever looked under Pep.
So City have conceded 2 goals in the past 10 games. It's proper football manager stats. You know, like it's ridiculous.
It's Arsenal at their best kind of stats. 1-0 to the Arsenal kind of football.
Yeah.
Not the most exciting stuff, but I think Pep is sacrificing a little bit of substance for the result. It's
interesting with City. They're scoring goals the way that those great City teams that under Guardiola did, in terms of getting into the byline, cutting it back, finding the spare player, that sort of thing. There's other ways they score goals, but it's kind of like that's the Guardiola type goal. They're just doing it less often. They just seem to struggle They did have Aguero for the Boxing Day game. I think he came off the bench and he had a chance they didn't quite get. Maybe having Aguero back makes a bit of a difference. He can nick him a goal here or there that just opens the floodgates. He's got that capability.
Aguero always makes a difference.
He did miss a half chance. Well, it was a good save from the keeper from a half chance. On their last game, I don't know if him coming in will add that touch to them, or if it's just going to be a bit more of the same.
No, without a doubt, Aguero helps any team. Talking about players who fit in it, especially in his prime. He's the best in the league in his prime. One of the best foreign players, I shouldn't even say foreign, one of the best strikers to ever grace the league. Having him back was only good for them. However, this Everton team, also resurgent. I'm just going to get their last few games up. They had some big wins against, besides the United game, they beat Arsenal, they beat Leicester, they beat Chelsea. Just after a kind of poorish run. They're back amongst them, man. The Merseyside teams are both on top, and they're just short of that. How do you see the team going? Sorry, how do you see? Pardon?
They're the form team in the league, aren't they? Won their last 4 games.
Yep, they are.
They lost just before the international break, and we all went, "Oh, here we go." Down they go.
Yeah.
They had I don't know if they're injured or rested, but they've gone with this front 3 with Calvert-Lewin is having a great season. Richarlison, who sort of plays laterally. And I think Rodriguez is doing the same thing, and I think it was getting in each other's way. So now you've got Iwobi, who runs in these very straight lines. We've talked about sort of the directness and pace of players like him. I think you used Danny Welbeck as an example a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that work of Iwobi versus Richarlison seems to complement each other. And having someone to cross balls with Calvert-Lewin's not the worst idea in the world as well. So it seems to complement each other. But Richarlison's out. He got injured. I think it was Boxing Day or the game against United. He got a concussion, so he didn't play the last game. And there's question marks over whether he'll play this. But you could slot Rodriguez in there. They changed their formation a bit, Everton. They were playing 4-3-3. They've gone to a 4-2-3-1 and moved Sigurdsson from the midfield 3 into the sort of number 10 Bruno Fernandes type role. So it'd be interesting if Rodriguez gets a berth on the left flank and is just told, do whatever you want, son. And run at Kyle Walker and make his day an absolute nightmare, or they try something else. But losing Richarlison, it's interesting because he's Brazilian and you expect them to have players to have a lot of flair, and he does. He also has that niggly side. He's almost like it reminds me a little bit of a Suarez or a Costa. He's got that little niggliness to him, not to the degree that those guys have, but he's got that in him, and I think that it's a big loss for them not to have him for a game like this.
I'll just add to that point. I've always personally liked, if you're playing a 4-2-3 or 4-2-3-1, I've always liked having that hard-working winger and that kind of creative number 10, which is what I think Ollie's trying to do with Daniel James on one side, for example. And Ancelotti's, I wouldn't say perfected it, but he's got the best out of Iwobi. I mean, to change a system like that, Ancelotti, world-class manager, 2 Champions League titles, blah, blah, blah. You know the rest of it.
It shows the importance of structure. With Barcelona, having that wide play was actually Dani Alves at right back, who just provided width. And as soon as you've got, if you're a left back, if I'm a left back here, and I'll use Barcelona as an example, you're already dealing with Lionel Messi. All of a sudden, you got Dani Alves charging down there. It creates moments of indecision, and it stretches a defense. So it's great to have all these number 10s. And Rodriguez and Richarlison are probably not compatible in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 because they do like moving inwards. Having one player that moves wide and one player that sort of comes in centrally, or there's a temptation. In the old days, it was Giggs and Beckham run to the corner flags type stuff. Now you're trying to find that balance between getting creative plays into the game and still having enough width. And so Iwobi provides that. And I think that's the point that you're making. And United have perhaps missed that. It's interesting United have gone the way of having Daniel James as a left footer on the right wing, but United need that width on the right wing. That's why they were going after Jadon Sancho in the summer.
And you see that kind of slow down when Mata gets on the wing, and he kind of slows the play down a bit too much because Wan-Bissaka doesn't offer that width as well. It's a good point, actually. How do you see the game going? Predictions?
I'm going to go City 1-0. I don't think they'll score a lot of goals. I think they'll get one, and I think they'll keep a clean sheet. I don't see Everton scoring this one. Calvert-Lewin might have something to say about that. I just think that I'm making this score on the assumption that Richarlison doesn't play. I think if he plays, he can get him a goal. Without him, I do see it a tough day. Ruben Diaz versus Calvert-Lewin is going to be a great battle. And John Stones as well, who's come back from being, almost Phil Jones like, not getting a game to suddenly being almost Van Dijk like. He's transformed faster than a Ginny Craig patient.
Richarlison is out. Yeah. So I mean, I don't particularly agree. To disagree again, I think it's going to be a draw. They've had. You'd be right to suggest a pattern where they've not had the best games against the big teams. They are a big team themselves, but they just haven't seemed to reciprocate the authority that the big teams put on them.
Are you talking about Everton?
But I think it's going to be. I'm talking about Everton. They've had mixed luck against the big teams. Like they've beaten Chelsea, they've lost to United twice this year already, for example. So I think it's going to be 1-1 though. I just think Calvert-Lewin and Ancelotti will just have enough to take them on.
Yeah,
however,
it's a good.
I think the key man.
I would rotate between 1-0 and 1-1, but I'll go 1-0.
And I think the key man for me, this would be a big game. In fact, I'll put him as my key man for the round as well. It'll be Cancelo, who had a great game last week against Newcastle, last round. I mean, and him against Iwobi, him against whoever's on the right side, whoever's on the left, on the right for Everton will be huge. But that's my prediction. And we'll move on, I guess, to who did the
United and Wolves.
United Wolves. I mean, Shyam, don't get me started.
Please go on.
Huge game. I mean, and actually, we'll talk. We can always talk a bit more with United being fans. So you said you think Cavani's going to start. I can't disagree with that. I think Cavani. I think there'll be a big. United now can rotate quite confidently. The kind of the main six in the front, the 5 or 6 we have in the front.
Apart from Bruno, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what 5. Okay, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5, maybe 6 if you have you can't really do this against Wolves because if you didn't know, Bruno's Portuguese, so you have to play 4 against Wolves.
Just so you can hear them communicating with each other, yeah. They know what they're saying.
To see each other. Yeah.
Bruno's also struck a pretty good relationship with Cavani really quick.
Who?
They seem to work well together, Cavani and Fernandes.
World-class players, man. They just know. They don't probably
want to figure a way, but they've done it quickly.
Paul Scholes said that. He said that a few times about Louis Saha. He said Louis Saha for him was the best striker he ever played with. because he would just look in his eyes. They said they would just look at each other's eyes and they'd know what to do from 30 yards away.
It's a shame
It
with
might be
Louis
that case
Zaha.
with
A
Vincent.
lot of people rated him highly. Like I think Van
Yeah.
Nistelrooy said that he was his favorite strike partner as well.
Really?
Yeah, like a lot
Wow.
of, and Rooney tended to play quite well with them as well. Rooney played better with quicker players, and
Yeah.
Zaha was quite quick. It's a shame. There's a lot of people
Mm.
rated Zaha. Yeah.
Yeah, it just had that injury problem. Perhaps had a type of injury problem that just couldn't be solved at that point in time that maybe could have been solved now with
Yeah.
the kind of technology today. It's a shame. But coming back to United, I see kind of heavy rotation. I think Van der Beek is going to start. I think Pogba will start as well. And I think you could see Rashford or Martial, who had a decent enough game, who's had a decent enough run of games last 4 games or so, but one of them is going to get a rest. Probably Bruno and Maguire are the only ones who are going to start this game. What are your thoughts on the game?
That? You think Rashford will play?
I think Rashford and Martial will get a rest over Cavani, with Cavani coming into the squad.
Yeah.
Most likely Martial.
I think Martial's more likely to come off the bench, just because Cavani will play up top, and the way that United set up, Rashford tends to start on the left. So.
Yeah. And again, I think United generally in a winning feeling, even though they drop points in good momentum, they just want to play, and they want to play the best players as much as possible. Give us your thoughts on how you think the game will go and predictions to finish off.
United have struggled at home this season.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that they will have a go at Wolves, and I think that Wolves will play the low block and try and counter. That Podence fella there, the Portuguese toff, I think he's going to be an important player. He seems to get on the ball a lot. I'm looking forward to him against Bruno. I think he'll play a bit deeper. I think Cavani will become very important in terms of trying to break that low block, and I think that's where United struggle. They've got Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood, who are not too, I won't say they're similar, but they're not too dissimilar. And they're not, you need something different to break the low block. And I think the ability to get it to Cavani, perhaps at his chest, perhaps Bruno threading the through balls for him, like that goal they had against Leicester, although that was Cavani threading it to Bruno. I think that ability to pick the lock is going to be quite important with Cavani then. I think that's why I think he will start. They will need, I'm not sure James will start out wide right, but they'll need a bit of width there to allow Cavani, Fernandes and Rashford to do their thing. They may even try, they did try this in the Champions League once with Rashford, because Rashford is still playing with an injury for all of his good performances this season. They have tried at times to play him on the right, and he does do well in terms of creating space for other people. So that might be a go at some point. Maybe they play Martial left, and then, or even Pogba left, and they put Rashford on the right as almost a decoy. You talked about Scottie Pippen before. In the 98 NBA Finals Game 6, he got injured scoring the first bucket of the game. And so he ended up playing the rest of the game pretty much as a decoy. And Michael Jordan, I think, got half of the team's points in that game. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that from the documentary,
Yeah, but I suspect Rashford will play left, but whoever plays on the right will be quite an important player. How they pick that lock in the defense, I think Matic will come in as well. I think this type of game where there's a low block suits him, just to have the game in front of him and he can play without worrying about a press. I don't think Wolves will press. I think 2 games in 48 hours, you're probably not looking to press, or the press breaks down. So I think he might be a goer as well. I'm going to go 2-0 with United. It might be the first time they win comfortably. Well, they did beat Leeds comfortably, but I think that win gave him a bit more confidence to play at home. And I think Wolves are in to use the football term, a difficult moment. They're not where they should be. There's the top 9 teams are pushing forward and the rest are struggling to catch up. And Wolves should be, and they have been the last few seasons, in that mix, that team that's banging on the door of the top 6. And all of a sudden, they're 11th on the table, I think it is. I'm going to go Bruno Cavani to score a goal. And I'm going to go with Cavani for my player of the week.
It's a beautiful monologue there. Very hard to disagree, but I'm just kind of looking at Wolves. Very mixed form, man. And you could argue they've been stretched. Well, they're stretched against Spurs to the last minute, stretched against Chelsea, battered by Liverpool, lost to Villa, lost to Burnley. Very mixed form. I very hard to disagree with analysis. I don't want to go in circles here, but I think it's going to be more than that. I think you're going to see one of those United performances where they get 1 or 2 early on, and then they're going to be a flurry of attacks later on. The one thing you can't discount United is they are fit till the very end. 500 meters less than Leeds they ran against what they called it. Not what they call. Leeds are the fittest team in the league, just by pure stats, I think. I think it's going to be 4-0 United, just with a couple of late goals. Not going to really reflect. I would like to see a lot of rotation, and I think at this stage, there's very little analysis you can do with a 24-hour turnaround or 48-hour turnaround game. I think at this stage, as all teams go, and especially for teams like United and Liverpool as well, they're going to be. I mean, who are they playing? We won't go much into it, but
Liverpool playing Newcastle.
They're playing Newcastle. Yeah, just want to play again because it's like 24 hours, there's nothing to think. Get your injections or whatever, your painkillers.
There'll be a lot of activism on Liverpool. They wouldn't have liked drawing. They're going to be an angry performance. Yeah. Yeah,
they're going to go smash Newcastle. I think we both know that. And I think coming to United, they're going to also think like we need to catch up. We need to put the pressure on. And they're probably going like, fuck, if we had won those 2 games, we'd be on top right now. You know, we'd be thereabouts, feeling a bit more pretty sitting on top. So I go 4-0. I think it's going to be one of those things. Marshall's going to come on later on, score a goal or 2, and I think you know what I'm talking about, that Newcastle game. So anyway, player of the round for me, Cancelo. I think he's going to be key against Everton. And for you, Cavani?
Yeah.
Cavani, Cancelo. All right, any closing thoughts, Shyam?
No.
I just want to confirm when the next round of fixtures are. How long is this turnaround? What's the turnaround for these games? Do you know?
What do you mean the turnaround? Sorry, from the round before, the next round after.
No, from tonight's round to the next is going to be 2 days, 3 days, depending on which team it is. Yeah. So the next bunch of fixtures are from the 1st to the 4th. Oh, sorry. Any closing thoughts?
No closing thoughts. I think, or one closing thought, I suppose. I mean, there's a lot to play for at the moment. A lot of teams in there. There were some draws in the Boxing Day fixtures that build a certain tension. So wins at the moment, particularly when you're playing teams around you, like Everton and City, Chelsea and Villa, the ability to win those games as opposed to draw them are quite important and will make a big difference at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in my opinion, Liverpool will be looking these next few weeks and hoping to break away, especially after a draw. Like there's going to be a couple of angry performances. And I also think Chelsea and City are looking to climb up in different ways. Chelsea are Man City looking to mount their challenge now after Christmas. And Chelsea just looking to get some form back. So those are 2 teams to look out for. I think you're going to see some rebound performances for the next few weeks for them. Perfect. I think we discussed, I think next week we'll do our second half of the season predictions, maybe first half of the season player of the seasons for the first half, and we'll talk a bit more about the games coming up on the weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We are the 5-Yard Pass. My name is Suddy. This is Shyam. Keep football simple, and as always,
keep passing, guys. Cheers.